Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news: Carole Middleton's shocked decision leaves Queen Camilla in tears. Within the meticulously orchestrated realm of the British monarchy, where every public action is examined and every private association is susceptible to speculation, the relationship between two women in notably significant roles, Queen Camilla, the consort of the current monarch, and Carole Middleton, mother of Catherine, Princess of Wales, has garnered persistent interest. Both ladies have attained prominence via distinct pathways, and their relationships, although seemingly kind and formally appropriate, have been characterized by onlookers and palace insiders as more complex than they seem. For over a decade, narratives have depicted a relationship marked by subtle friction, implicit rivalry, and a nuanced struggle for influence influenced by differing backgrounds, ideals, and perceptions of the monarchy's role. This story delineates the evolution of this interaction, from the royal engagement to subsequent years of adaptations, culminating in an event seen by many as a pivotal moment in the informal power dynamics at the institution's core. To understand the apparent conflict between these two ladies, one must analyze the differing paths that led them to the royal household. Their origins and life experiences exemplify two divergent aspects of modern Britain, and thus two unique perspectives on the relationship between family life and royal life. Carole Middleton, born Carole Goldsmith in 1955, originated from a working-class household. Her father was employed in construction as a builder, while her mother made a career in retail. Driven and diligent from a young age, she started her career at John Lewis, a prominent British store renowned for its employee-owned model and commitment to customer service. Subsequently, she worked as a flight attendant for British Airways, a position that offered financial remuneration, while also immersing her in other cultures and social environments, ultimately resulting in her encounter with Michael Middleton, a flight dispatcher. Their collaboration developed into a more expansive entrepreneurial initiative. In 1987, while balancing family responsibilities at their kitchen table, Carole established Party Pieces, a mail-order business specializing in party supplies, which achieved significant success. The company's expansion allowed the Middletons to adopt a comfortable upper-middle-class lifestyle and to enroll their three children, Catherine, Pippa, and James, in Marlborough College, a distinguished private boarding school recognized for its academic and extracurricular programs. Carole's life narrative is often characterized as a tale of social mobility, attained via perseverance, pragmatic intellect, and a discerning perception of commercial prospects. She has been publicly portrayed as pragmatic, grounded in familial values, and passionately protective of her children, attributes she aimed to impart via a blend of support and explicit demands. Camilla, originally named Camilla Shand, was born in 1947 into a family with entrenched connections to the British aristocracy and the military. Her father, Major Bruce Shand, was a British Army officer and a wine trader. Her mother, the Honourable Rosalind Cubitt, was the daughter of a baron. Camilla's childhood was immersed in the traditions of the upper middle and upper classes. Her schooling at Queen's Gate School in South Kensington and later participation at finishing schools in Switzerland and France exemplified the social standards and cultural capital of her environment. Her association with Charles, then the Prince of Wales, in the early 1970s started a protracted and intricate connection that developed amidst much media and public examination. For many years, she held the contentious position of the other woman in the discourse regarding Charles's marriage to Diana, Princess of Wales, a depiction that resulted in significant public condemnation in certain circles and rendered her at times one of the most polarizing figures in British public life. Her subsequent marriage to Charles in 2005 and her meticulous incremental assimilation into the responsibilities and public life linked to the title Duchess of Cornwall signified an extensive process of recovery and adjustment. She gradually established a reputation for her dedication to her husband, unwavering support for philanthropic endeavors, and a working-class sense of humor that rendered her friendly and pragmatic in many circumstances. Years of engagement with the institution and assimilation of its norms made her a proponent of the monarchy's rituals and a custodian of its traditions. The 2010 formal announcement of the engagement between Prince William and Catherine Middleton therefore amalgamated two distinct British narratives: a self-made enterprising family with origins in the professional and commercial realms, and a lady who comprehended the royal milieu from birth. The worldwide enthusiasm for the couple's wedding in April 2011 portrayed the marriage as a contemporary fairy tale in the era of mass media. Nonetheless, underlying tensions existed as two distinct British identities navigated their place within a centuries-old institution. Sources close to the wedding planning indicated that the Middletons aimed to incorporate personal, informal elements that would embody their family values, whereas the palace, adhering to long-standing traditions and a commitment to presenting state events in a specific manner, insisted on following established protocol. Disputes allegedly emerged over apparently trivial aspects like the guest list for certain social events, the design of flower displays, and other ceremonial particulars. In these conflicts, choices often remained within royal authority, and the Middletons discovered that their influence over specific elements of the event was limited. Carole Middleton exhibited maternal pride during the public stages of the engagement and wedding. However, insiders later noted that her experience during the planning established a precedent. She was cast as supportive yet peripheral, a relative outsider whose role within the royal sphere would be constrained by institutional regulations rather than defined by her interactions with its members. Following the marriage, when Catherine started undertaking the duties and public engagements of a senior royal, the connections between the Middletons and the monarchy unavoidably evolved. For Carole, being a grandmother introduced a new arena where issues around access and power may emerge. The Middleton family has consistently been depicted in reports as cohesive and engaged. Carole is seen as an active participant in her children's life, assuming a practical and involved role in familial matters. The birth of Prince George in July 2013 prompted immediate inquiries over the preservation of family intimacy, given that his upbringing will inevitably be influenced by royal customs. The growing of a future monarch is influenced by a complex interplay of tradition, security, and logistical factors, making it a topic of public interest. The palace maintained a model of professional childcare in accordance with historical royal tradition. It selected a full-time nanny from Norland College, an institution renowned for cultivating highly talented, professionally trained nannies, emphasizing child development discipline and protocols tailored for families with public duties. The appointment of Maria Barallo, a Norland graduate, indicated the palace's inclination towards formally educated, discreet personnel expected to provide stability and consistency in the children's life. Despite the public's perception of the Cambridge couple as contemporary and engaged in their parenting approach, the institutional frameworks governing their domestic arrangements remained firmly established. The arrangements intended to ensure the children's well-being and public image, however, inherently restricted the spontaneity and regularity of informal family contacts. Insiders said that Carole's trips were often prearranged and might be rescheduled to accommodate royal obligations. Proposals for practical assistance from a grandmother well-versed in childcare responsibilities were sometimes courteously rejected in favor of the existing home staff and the routine dictated by royal scheduling. The Christmas season, a culturally important occasion for family reunions in Britain, exemplified the conflict between traditional practices and government expectations. The royal family traditionally spends the Christmas season at Sandringham Estate in Norfolk, a secluded rural hideaway that has accommodated generations of royal gatherings. Catherine and William's anticipated adherence to this tradition rendered their absence from the Middleton family's annual Christmas gathering a cause of adjustment and sadness for a family used to celebrating holidays together. For Carole, who was used to a tight domestic routine, the mandated separations and scheduled visits seemed to highlight a new social divide between her family and the royal household. Observers of court life have posited that Camilla, who had long been an integral part of what insiders colloquially refer to as the firm, a name for the royal household's collective institution, discreetly endorsed the preservation of these customary limits. Her opinion was not necessarily indicative of personal animosity against the Middletons according to the stories, but rather that of an individual who prioritizes the rules she perceives as essential to the monarchy's identity and stability. Having had a prolonged public process of admission inside the organization, she may be seen as someone committed to upholding its norms and traditions. This mindset, however, conflicted with Carole's family-centric approach, resulting in a subtle rivalry between two women who viewed themselves as protectors of their family's welfare and legacy, albeit with divergent interpretations of what safeguarding and respect entailed. A notable event in this narrative is the baptism of Princess Charlotte in July 2015, conducted in the Church of St. Mary Magdalene, the parish church on the Sandringham estate. The ceremony was deliberately personal, designed to honor close relatives and to convey a private aspect of a public existence. Subsequent to the ceremony, it has been stated that Carole intended to organize a modest, informal family gathering. However, at the last moment such preparations were modified. Several stories ascribe the alterations to choices originating from the palace, with several indicating that Camilla's office had a role in shaping the final configuration of the post-ceremony gathering. Regardless of official education or informal advice, the outcome was that the Middletons anticipated a warm, personal event, which was altered into a more structured and less intimate affair. For Carole, who had expected a private, personal occasion to celebrate with her daughter and grandkids, the change served as a painful reminder that institutional prerogatives may restrict access and the ability to organize intimate family gatherings. Despite being a minor occurrence in the context of royal activities, it served symbolically to accentuate the perceived divide between the families and to reinforce the notion that the Middletons' position was subordinate. In the next years, observers of royal life saw a gradual change in Carole Middleton's public visibility. A lady who had prioritized attendance at important family events became less commonly captured in photographs during royal engagements and official appearances. Reports indicate that this was not a withdrawal in the context of capitulation, but a calculated strategy, having encountered numerous occasions where she felt marginalized. Carole adjusted her engagement, distancing herself from public proximity to the palace and refocusing on her business pursuits, local obligations, and family life in Berkshire on terms more favorable to her. The retreat was characterized as strategic and dignified, emphasizing the selection of timing and method of engagement above the pursuit of notoriety or conflict. An event from November 2018, recounted by attendees at a 70th birthday party for the then Prince Charles at Buckingham Palace, is often referenced as epitomizing the gap. The assembly convened individuals from Charles's network of patronages, long-standing acquaintances, and members of the aristocracy. Accounts from guests said that Carole overheard a comment made by Camilla during a chat with some of her long-standing aristocratic associates, which was broadly regarded as juxtaposing new money with those of established ancestry and background. The Middletons were not explicitly mentioned, however, the subtext served as a subtle, incisive critique of families that achieved prominence via business instead of hereditary aristocracy. For a woman who established a lasting enterprise and fostered her family's wealth from humble origins, the perceived remark was felt as both degrading and conclusive, an indication that in the view of certain members of the old guard, the Middletons would continue to be regarded as outsiders, irrespective of the public positions held by their children. Following such incidents, Carole reportedly embraced a more systematic approach instead of participating in public disputes or spectacles. She allegedly started maintaining meticulous private notes of encounters and occurrences in which she felt her family had been ostracized. The notes were characterized as meticulous and systematic, reflecting the disposition of an individual who has transformed a kitchen table venture into a nationally recognized enterprise. The documents purportedly documented occurrences such as canceled visits, abrupt alterations to family arrangements executed without prior consultation, and instances where she perceived exclusion from choices about her grandchildren's milestones. What may seem like minor offenses together formed a pattern that, according to Carole, justified documenting. In addition to personal issues, reports indicate that Carole's extensive social and economic network gave her access to many insights into the operational aspects of the royal family. This was not just tabloid speculation, but rather specifics as per the reports concerning administrative practices, budgets, property management, and spending patterns associated with the execution of royal tasks. When examined together, these seemingly trivial facts illustrated the dynamics of influence priorities and resource allocation inside the institution. Observers noted instances of substantial expenditures rationalized by ceremonial purposes, the diversion of charitable funds, and the convergence of personal interests with official duties. These patterns were framed more as inquiries for a diligent individual aiming to comprehend a convoluted system than as allegations. For an individual like Carole, who is inherently reserved but meticulous, collecting such information allegedly offered a type of leverage, a knowledgeable understanding of decision-making processes, and the nexus of power and finance. By early 2024, the previously concealed animosity between Carole and Camilla had started to become more evident in public contexts. An instance often cited by observers occurred in March of that year at a school performance in London attended by family members to commemorate Prince Louis's involvement. Observers and photographers remarked on a clear separation between the two women. They were not just physically distanced in images, but also seemed to eschew eye contact and any explicit interaction. Prince William was seen periodically traversing between them, trying to alleviate tensions in a subtly apparent manner. The public displays indicated that formerly minor private disputes had become sufficiently ingrained to manifest in the customary practices of family life, a clear indication that personal grievances had solidified into a visible, if unspoken, rift. Speculation among royal analysts of a clear turning point culminated with detailed details of a secret encounter reported by insiders. As to these accounts scheduled for February 6, 2025, Carole came at Buckingham Palace for a planned private discussion with Queen Camilla. She allegedly arrived unaccompanied, devoid of assistance or public spectacle, with just a briefcase. The stories indicate that the contents were not sensationalist exposés, but rather a well-assembled dossier, a chronology letters, receipts, and financial papers that detailed years of contacts, choices, and perceived exclusions impacting her daughter and grandkids. The information was conveyed in these accounts in a factual and dispassionate way, the result not of a conspiracy, but of an individual seeking acknowledgement of what she saw as an unjust or marginalizing trend and clarification about issues that affected her family's well-being and status. Those conveying this narrative stress that the objective was not to demean or incite a public dispute, but to seek reparation and recognition via direct, mature dialogue. The dossier reportedly served as both a record of personal grievances and, more generally, an inventory of administrative and financial procedures that elicited scrutiny. The presentation allegedly elicited an unexpected emotional reaction. Camilla, often seen as collected and stoic in public, was reported by many witnesses to be clearly unsettled upon seeing the material. Some reports indicate that the Queen Consort was brought to tears, a very atypical response for an individual so familiar with the orchestrated harshness of royal life. Should these stories be entirely or partially correct, the poignant occasion would indicate that Carole's systematic strategy had garnered the palace's attention in a manner unprecedented. In the days subsequent to the purported encounter, occurrences inside the palace apparently assumed a more agitated nature. Senior staff meetings were rearranged, several aides were allegedly recalled from retirement, and many engagements were deferred without public clarification. The palace maintained public quiet, as is customary in delicate familial situations. However, this silence provoked more speculation. The most prominent immediate result was the Queen Consort's cessation of public appearances for around 10 days. Upon Camilla's resumption of public responsibilities on March 11th at the annual Commonwealth Day ceremony, onlookers noted a transformed manner characterized by less ease, briefer contacts, and an overall impression of restrained serenity. Journalists, body language specialists, and royal observers noted a changed walk during public appearances. The queen consort seemed more subdued and less expressive than her typical public presence. The alleged response inside the palace ecology divided staff loyalties. Certain aides, especially those closely associated with the Prince and Princess of Wales, allegedly saw Carole's actions favorably, seeing them as a maternal protective measure for her family and a long-overdue challenge to ambiguous practices. Some, especially traditionalists within the royal household who were loyal to the queen consort and committed to maintaining existing hierarchies, saw the action as a disruptive and undesirable violation of institutional norms. Prince William, positioned between his spouse and his royal step-grandmother, was depicted in reports as striving to mediate, acknowledging his wife's family's concerns, but simultaneously preserving peace within the broader royal context. Reports indicated that Charles consulted close advisors, including those connected to his mother, Princess Diana, evoking in analysts' narratives echoes of the long-standing generational divisions that have historically influenced Windsor family matters. Carole maintained public silence. She resumed her life in Berkshire, embracing the tranquil cadence of work and family, but refraining from participating in media speculation. Her quiet and caution sent a clear message: she did not want attention or a media conflict, but instead desired a private recognition and modification in the treatment of her family. By demonstrating composed demeanor and systematic preparation instead of dramatics, she indicated that she was a well-prepared and resolute interlocutor, not just the mother of a future queen, but a woman whose experience and connections afforded her substantial influence. If the Middleton intervention is seen as a reckoning, its aftermath has been governed not by significant public disputes, but by subtle continuity and a consistent reorganization of authority. Catherine, Princess of Wales, emerged as the foremost figure representing the monarchy's future in that rearrangement. Her reply was not to assert triumph in a domestic conflict, but to persist in the methodical cultivation of public trust through unwavering effort. Catherine's path inside the royal structure has been characterized from the beginning by a systematic training process. Despite sporadic condescension from certain social groups that saw her as an invader due to her middle-class background, she abstained from public grievance. Rather, she observed, listened, and acquired knowledge. She examined the practices of the late Queen Elizabeth II, whose longevity and judicious public governance provided a compelling paradigm: the acquisition of soft power via consistent duty, evident competence, and the capacity to navigate both public expectations and private limitations. Catherine developed a repertory of what might be described as silent influence, an awareness of when to articulate how to advocate for issues and how to direct focus towards philanthropic endeavors without allowing controversy to undermine her fundamental public position. In the spring of 2025, when Queen Camilla's public visibility diminished, the Princess of Wales filled that void not via hostility, but by maintaining a consistent and capable presence. Her public agenda was marked by cordiality, meticulous planning, and reliable implementation. Her patronages and charity activities, in which she had previously established focus and long-term participation, continued to thrive under her consistent care. She epitomized a comforting stability to the public, an individual who merged approachability with dignity and could maintain a ceremonial presence while being attuned to the issues of regular residents. In the ensuing silence after the palace turmoil, she emerged as the stabilizing presence, the person to whom both the institution and the public turned for a sense of normality. This progression was more a natural fruition of years of diligent preparation than a planned acquisition of authority. The attributes ascribed to Catherine's stability, composure, and a feeling of obligation were largely the result of the principles she had internalized from her family: a strong work ethic, the significance of familial support, and a predilection for pragmatic solutions. Many pundits saw her as a successful blend of Middleton pragmatism and Windsor formality, exemplifying a contemporary monarchy capable of reconciling socioeconomic divisions and resonating with a wide audience. Her expanding power caused palpable changes inside the palace. Personnel and assistants who previously adhered to traditional loyalties started to associate with the pair, embodying the new generation's approach to monarchy, pragmatic, family-focused, and adept in media, but yet honoring fundamental conventions. The Middletons' approach, characterized by a penchant for open family networks, emotional support, and clear communication, transitioned from being seen as dangers to being regarded as valuable assets inside an institution striving for relevance. Power, especially inside a long-established organization, seldom vanishes. Rather, it shifts its locus. The underlying rivalry between Carole and Camilla did not culminate in a public confrontation. However, it facilitated a more subdued generational shift of authority towards the Prince and Princess of Wales. The alteration was not disclosed in news announcements, nor introduced with ostentation. It was shown by the gradual build-up of public favor for the younger generation, the reorganization of palace protocols, and the reassessment of individuals assigned certain duties. The narrative of these two women, one an entrepreneur who ascended to the upper middle class through her endeavors, and the other a perennial participant in the royal social sphere, exemplifies the overarching tensions in contemporary Britain, the dichotomies of tradition versus mobility, institution versus family, and the private inclinations of kinship versus the public imperatives of monarchy. According to the testimonies of insiders and spectators, neither lady is a stereotype. Carole Middleton's actions are characterized as exact, principled, and protective, whereas Camilla's position is seen not only as exclusive, but as safeguarding an institution she has contributed to sustaining and defending. The documentation of their connection reveals a depiction of two powerful women whose contrasting allegiances and life experiences have led to an ongoing negotiation of influence. The ultimate significant result of this understated fight may not be a public victory or a sensational division, but rather the nuanced transformation of royal existence, a transition towards a future generation represented by Catherine and William, whose merged heritages signify both continuity and evolution. The monarchy has always endured by assimilating aspects of the community it represents, modifying rituals and symbols to maintain significance. The reported rebalancing of influence indicates that this process persists power, and its symbols transition often without disturbance from one set of values to another. Recent years of subtle tension, thorough record-keeping, and deliberate public composure remind us that the British royal, while sometimes associated with loudness and spectacle, often wields its most profound influence in understated, almost imperceptible ways. The myth suggests that the most significant crowns are those worn by those who maintain their cool and fulfill their duties, advancing with dignity rather than ostentation, a reality that characterizes the subtle rise of a future queen. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.